Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm here with Bryan Leonard and Preston, the Sports Cheetah. We're going to talk some college basketball. I want to get some handicapping tips from you guys, some different things that you guys like to look at and use when you're breaking down your college basketball. A lot of people, there's different times of the year. There's December basketball, which is a different handicap because you've got teams that play one another that normally don't play one another in holiday tournaments and things of that nature. Then you also have in December, one of the things that's a little bit of a disruption when you get to finals week, teams, a little bit of a distraction. I know some schools actually do go to class with the athletes. And then you've got the holidays, people going home and the fan base, as far as home crowds, not as wild because there's not as many students there in different things. So all of those things affect handicapping. Then the calendar hits the new year and you get into conference play, which is another different handicap. And personally, it's my favorite. I like conference play better. You guys, what do you guys look at and some things you like?
I'll start off with home court value. When you're playing in the preseason, you have a lot of teams that are not used to playing in that environment. You've got certain environments where they're really tough to play in, like Duke. Obviously, the fans are right on you. Mm-hmm. So if you're not used to playing in that, I know UNLV went there a few years ago, and it was just that's all the players talked about was they're not used to an environment where it's right on you. But when you get into conference play, these teams play there every single year, and in basketball, you usually get two or 3 years. We got the same players on the team, and so they go in there and they've been there before. It's not quite the same way, not quite as intimidating. And you also have, for example, different styles of play. A lot of coaches early in the season would just want to get out there and get the rotations going. They don't have their regular set for the conference schedule, and they may play a little bit looser. But then when conference play starts, you see the same thing as you do every single year. Once conference play starts, you know exactly what you're going to get out of that team because they have the same coach.
Yes, no, that's interesting. So when teams in conference see each other a second time, I actually decrease when I'm setting a line for myself, home court by a point. But you could argue you should just do it from the get-go, even once conference play starts, if you've seen them for the last few years, and similar players. So I hadn't considered that till now. So I was just thinking that over. But a few notes that I made before we came in to do the video that I started doing last year, particularly when they were upping the foul calls and the rule changes with that, and they've kind of even more so focused on it this season. And it's kind of something you have to wait and gather some information on early in the year. But now, before I even make a play, if my power ratings, I'll have a number that I set, and if I'm getting a couple points of value, I'm going to really look into it. And I really look at free throw shooting now, not just percentage, like how good are they at shooting the free throws, but how often are they getting to the line and how often are they being called for fouls, their opponents getting to the line. And a lot of times you'll see that teams, they have 8 to 10 free throw attempt per game edge at a similar percentage. And a lot of that's going to be factored generally into the line. But if I feel like, hey, this is already a little bit off of where I made it, plus I think I'm getting a free throw edge. An example I had just real quick, it didn't go my way, but just a week ago, Missouri played at Georgia. And they're getting like 10.5, 11 early on. I think it closed 9 or 9.5. I had power rated it like 7. So it was like pretty far off. And Missouri had a huge edge in free throws. Naturally, Georgia shot like 68%, and Missouri shot 30, even though they out attempted from field goal, and it was like 13 or 14 free throw attempts. They couldn't cover the 11, but the idea was that they're a more physical team. They're going to get to the line more, and generally that's going to pay off down the road. So that's one stat, particularly free throw shooting, that I think now before I even bet a game, I'm always checking, because there's some stuff I've liked, looking at lines, power ratings, and then the free throw discrepancy so far has kind of gotten me off of it, which generally has been actually helpful for me.
Yeah, I like to look at, being a situational guy, find spots where you're going to find a team that's going to be flat. Maybe it's a big TV game. I like to fade an underdog that was a big underdog and had played their guts out and come up just short. Everybody saw them in that game and said, wow, this team's better than we thought they were. And then they lay 4 or 5 points with them the next game and are flat as a pancake. I like to take the dog in that situation. Also, because of college basketball, there's so many more schools that you look at. And teams don't know those lesser schools. And, like Bryan, I'll talk to you. You've got all of the area where you've got like Cleveland State and Youngstown State. The little schools, when they play one of the bigger schools in the area, that's a big deal for them, like a Duquesne playing a Pitt.
Oakland, Michigan State the other night, actually. Took them to overtime.
You get those kind of games, but then also you've got a spot to go against that little school winning their next game. the Philadelphia, the Big Five. Whenever somebody plays Villanova, you got St. Joe's and Drexel, all those teams, LaSalle and that. Those are big games for them because they're getting to play Big Brother, and then there's a natural letdown in the next game. Find the right spots to look for things like that.
And looking at home field advantage or home court advantage, it's not the same. It's not like the NFL where it's roughly 3 in that area. Everything is different. You've got certain conferences where you've got one team way out here and all the other conferences over here, or all the rest of the conference. So when they go to Denver or they go to a team like that, that's like UTEP used to be in the Mountain West, and that was tough to get to UTEP, and it was really strong playing on a team that's out there. And then conversely, when they have to go on the road, that's farther for them
West
to go.
Virginia is that team in the Big 12. They're not geographically, Penn State, not geographically in the conference that they're in.
One more point I wanted to make before we wrap this up. Great example yesterday. You just have to be on top of the news. Kansas, the snow or the weather there in that West Virginia game, their bus couldn't get through traffic in the snow. They had to get police escorted to the gym, and they arrived like less than an hour before tip-off. And that's so their warm-ups, their pregame stuff, whatever they do, that's out the window, and that's just something like they're already off their rhythm before the game even started. So that's the type of things Twitter's great for that, obviously, but be on top of the news and info for all the teams that you're looking at betting.
And the flip side to that, too, is unfortunately sometimes because of Twitter, this kind of information gets out quick. I remember there was a game last year.
UNLV Wyoming, I believe.
Yeah, they
I
missed
know
the
you're
play.
thinking about,
And everybody and her brother was jumping. The line just flies off the chart. And then,
But still, if you're the first one to get that information, if you're going to do it, you can always buy back the other way and put yourself in for a good
position. Hey guys, I hope that helps you out with some handicapping tips, as we like to try to make you guys a better handicapper, sharing some of the things that we look at. And if you're new to WagerTalk, after your first $12 purchase, email support with your username. We'll put a $50 sign-up bonus in your account for you to use any way you like. That's a $50 sign-up bonus after your first $12 purchase at WagerTalk. Be sure to check out all of our other videos and podcast at wagertalk.com.